Revolutionizing Governance, a Blueprint for Ethical Democracy in the Age of Planetary Stewardship by John Duffy. Preface: A Call to Stewardship. By John Duffy. I did not write this book out of faith in politics. I wrote it out of faith in people. Politics, as it stands in the early 21st century, has lost its way. It has become an occupation rather than a duty, a profession sustained by rivalry and image rather than wisdom and care. Those who rise within its walls are often trapped by the very system they sought to reform, compelled to perform instead of to serve, and so, while the earth burns and the oceans choke, the machinery of government grinds on, proud of its noise and blind to its silence. The People's Political Party, and the People's Lottery government that springs from it, is not a party in the old sense of the word. It is a movement of correction, a course adjustment in the long experiment of democracy. It does not ask for allegiance, but for participation. It calls upon the citizens of this nation, and, in time, of all nations, to reclaim the sacred task of stewardship, to govern not for profit or power, but for the preservation of life. The purpose. This book is a blueprint for that transformation. It is written as both a manifesto and a manual, as philosophy and as engineering. Its first half sets out the reasoning, why the existing systems of representation have failed to protect the earth or its people, why career politics inevitably degenerates into self-interest, why transparency and rotation are not luxuries but necessities of survival. Its second half offers design, the mechanisms of selection, service, and dissolution, the operational structure of a parliament built not upon partisanship but upon chance and aptitude. I have tried to show that the People's Lottery government is not an idealistic dream, but an achievable reform grounded in logic, ethics, and technology. It is a system built to prevent the permanent ownership of power, to ensure that government, like nature, renews itself. The philosophy. At the core of this vision lies a single conviction that democracy is not complete until it becomes a shared act of stewardship. Stewardship is more than a moral sentiment, it is a discipline, the practice of using authority to preserve the conditions that make life possible. It is as practical as ecology and as sacred as conscience. We have spent centuries perfecting the mechanisms of competition, perhaps now we might try perfecting the mechanisms of cooperation. We have built empires on conquest, perhaps it is time to build civilization on care. The urgency. The age of incremental reform is over. The biosphere has entered crisis, and no government structured around careerism or private interest can hope to correct it. If we continue to treat politics as theatre, the curtain will close not with applause, but with extinction. I believe we are capable of better. I believe that the same ingenuity that split the atom, mapped the genome, and created artificial intelligence can also be used to design a governance system immune to greed. We can, if we choose, build a political architecture that reflects the laws of life itself: balance, reciprocity, renewal. The hope. When I imagine the first assembly of the People's Parliament, I do not see politicians. I see a mosaic of the nation, a teacher from Cardiff, a nurse from Glasgow, an engineer from Manchester, a poet from Cornwall, a farmer from Norfolk. I see the faces of those who have carried the weight of society without reward, now given a chance to serve openly, honestly, and for a time. If this book accomplishes anything, I hope it restores faith, not in government as an institution but in humanity as a capable and moral species. For all our failures, we remain the only creatures who can look at the earth and say we must protect this. This book is dedicated to that faith. Those who still believe that conscience can be engineered into law, that justice can be written into code, and that power can be humbled by design. Those who know that democracy's truest form is not found in voting alone, but in caring collectively. I offer these pages not as prophecy, but as possibility. If we fail, it will not be for lack of intelligence, but for lack of imagination. Let this work, then, be an act of imagination, disciplined, deliberate, and devoted to life. For governance is not the art of ruling the world. It is the art of keeping it alive. John Duffy, London, May 2029. Table of Contents. Front Matter. Preface: A Call to Stewardship by John Duffy. Part 1: The Vision and the Need for Change. Chapter 1: The Crisis of Governance, the Failure of Representative Democracy in the Age of Ecological Collapse, Careerism, Corruption, and the Erosion of Public Trust. Chapter 2: The birth of the People's Political Party, origins of the movement, philosophical roots in civic humanism, Druidic ecology, and modern systems theory. Chapter 3, The Case Against Career Politics: How Professionalized Power Perpetuates Inequality, Detachment, and Inefficiency in Government. Chapter 4, The People's Lottery, a Blueprint for Renewal, introducing the principle of sortition combined with aptitude assessment, the foundation of the People's Lottery government. Part 2, Design of the People's Government. Chapter 5, Selection by Chance and Merit Procedures for National Lottery, Civic Eligibility, and the Aptitude Framework ensuring competence and inclusivity. Chapter 6, The Architecture of Parliament, Structural Redesign of the Legislature, the 700 Stewardship Seats and the Rotating Presiding Steward System. Chapter 7, Governance by Rotation, the Mechanics and Philosophy of Single-Term Service, ensuring continuity through civic apprenticeship and institutional mentorship. Chapter 8, The Ethics of Transparency, establishing public oversight through the governance ledger, digital commons portal, and real-time accountability measures. Chapter 9, The Resource-Based Economy, integrating sustainability with governance, resource stewardship, dividends, and ecological economics. Chapter 10, Education for Citizenship, the creation of civic academies and lifelong learning as the moral infrastructure of the new democracy. Part 3, Implementation in the United Kingdom. Chapter 11, Constitutional Foundations and Transition, preparing for transformation, dissolving the old Parliament, legal frameworks, and the Constitutional Convention. Chapter 12, Transition and Implementation, from Old Parliament to People's Government, step-by-step policy and procedural design for the UK pilot, from public referendum to operational launch. Part 4, The First Era of Stewardship. Chapter 13, The First 5 Years, Governance in Practice, a narrative documentary chronicle of the United Kingdom's inaugural People's Parliament, early laws, culture, and transparency in action. Chapter 14, The Evolution of Global Governance, the second decade of stewardship, the spread of the people's government model worldwide, the birth of the global federation and planetary governance. Part 5, The Philosophy of Stewardship. Chapter 15, The Philosophy of Stewardship, the Ethics of the People's Era, a theoretical exposition of the moral and metaphysical foundations of stewardship, uniting science, ecology, and ethics. Part 6, The Future Horizon. Chapter 16, The Future Horizon, Challenges for the Third Century of Democracy, an analytical and futurist exploration of the coming century, sustainability, artificial intelligence, migration, and the expansion of conscience beyond Earth. Part 7, Reflections and Renewal. Epilogue, The Circle and the Flame, a closing meditation by John Duffy on power, conscience, and the eternal rhythm of stewardship. About the author John Duffy, philosopher, reformist, and founder of the People's Political Party, advocate for ethical democracy and ecological stewardship. Dedication. To the people of the earth, past, present, and yet to come, whose courage to care will always be the truest form of power. And to those who still believe that humanity can govern with wisdom and love the world enough to change it. John Duffy. Acknowledgements. John Duffy. This work could not have been written in isolation. It is the product of countless conversations, shared hopes, and the quiet labor of those who still believe that truth, once spoken clearly, can change the course of history. I owe gratitude first to the thinkers and reformers who came before me, from the philosophers of enlightenment to the sages of ancient traditions who taught that governance is an act of balance, not dominance. To the visionaries of ecology and systems theory who revealed that the laws of life and the laws of justice are one and the same. To the teachers, nurses, engineers, and artisans who inspired the idea of the people's government, those who work not for applause, but for the quiet satisfaction of keeping the world running, their integrity gave this theory its substance. To the scholars, editors, and citizens who debated these ideas with patience and honesty, to the countless volunteers who helped shape the framework of the People's Political Party, and to all who refused to surrender to cynicism, this book belongs as much to you as it does to me. Finally, I thank the living earth, whose patience exceeds our folly, and whose beauty reminds us what all governance is truly for. May this work serve, however humbly, as repayment for the privilege of being alive within her care. John Duffy. Revolutionizing Governance. The People's Political Party and the Birth of the People's Lottery Government. By John Duffy. Forward, a call to the people. True democracy is not a ritual of voting, it is the living heartbeat of a people governing themselves. John Duffy, founder of the People's Political Party. Across the globe, a quiet crisis unfolds. Governments stumble from scandal to scandal, parliaments grow stagnant, and citizens watch helplessly as decisions about their lives are made by individuals more devoted to their careers than to their countries. The earth itself groans under the weight of human negligence, forests burn, oceans choke, and species vanish, while politicians argue endlessly about policies that never come to fruition. It has become painfully clear that the existing political order, designed in an age of empires and privilege, is no longer fit for the purpose of planetary survival. Democracy, as practiced in the modern world, has been reduced to a spectacle, elections fueled by money, manipulated by media and dominated by parties who claim to represent the people but serve the interests of the few. We stand at a crossroads in history. Humanity's next century will determine whether civilization evolves toward cooperation and sustainability, or collapses into chaos, division, and ecological ruin. The time has come to reimagine governance from its very foundations. The People's Political Party, PPP, is not a conventional party in this broken system, it is a movement for transformation. It demands that we return to the true meaning of democracy, government by the people, for the people. Our central vision is the establishment of the People's Lottery Government, a system designed to eliminate corruption, decentralize power, and empower citizens directly to take responsibility for their world. This idea may sound revolutionary, and it is. But every revolution that has ever changed the world began as a simple question: what if things could be done differently? What if government were not a hierarchy of privilege, but a shared civic duty? What if leadership were not a career, but a temporary act of service? Under the People's Lottery Government, every 5 years, 70,000 citizens across the United Kingdom would be chosen by National Lottery to undergo aptitude assessments. From these 700 citizens, ordinary men and women from every walk of life would be selected to serve as the government for a single 5-year term. They would not campaign for votes, nor beg for funding. Their only qualification would be their competence, integrity, and readiness to serve. In this model, power ceases to be a commodity. It becomes a responsibility, a sacred trust shared among all citizens. The rotation of leadership ensures that no one person or party can dominate indefinitely. The government becomes a reflection of the people themselves, a mosaic of voices, professions, and experiences bound not by ideology, but by purpose. This is not utopian idealism, it is practical evolution. Ancient Athens once used lottery systems to select officials. Modern citizens' assemblies across Europe have shown that ordinary people, given the right information and support, can deliberate wisely and ethically on complex issues. The PPP's model refines and expands this principle into a comprehensive system for a new era, one where civic duty replaces political ambition, and the welfare of the planet becomes the foundation of policy. Our movement also proposes a resource-based economy, an economic system guided by sustainable management rather than profit-driven exploitation. Humanity has the knowledge and technology to create abundance for all. It is politics that prevents it. By aligning governance with ecological and social responsibility, we can restore balance between people and planet. This book is both a manifesto and a guide, a roadmap for transforming not only Great Britain but the world. It lays out, step by step, how the People's Lottery Government can function, how it can be implemented, and why it represents humanity's best effort for survival and renewal. Let this book serve as a declaration of intent that we, the citizens of Earth, are ready to reclaim our future. No longer shall we be ruled by the few. No longer shall corruption, greed, and dictate the destiny of nations. The People's Political Party stands as the voice of new age, the people's government. This is the dawn of new democracy, one that belongs to us all. Chapter 1: The Broken System. Why? Traditional democracy has failed. When the few rule the many, freedom withers. when the many share and rule, justice begins. From the Charter of the People's Political Party. Democracy, once the proud beacon of human progress, has been quietly hollowed out. Its institutions still stand, its rituals still performed, ballots cast, speeches made, debates televised, yet beneath the surface, the spirit gave life decayed. What remains is a theatre of governance, a spectacle carefully choreographed to sustain the illusion of choice, while power is concentrated in the hands of the political elite. Across the world, citizens sense its betrayal. They feel its stagnant wages in the empty promise of manifestos, in the slow trust between the governed and the governing. They see governments not as stewards of public good, but as custodians of corporate interest. Elections come and go, yet policies remain similar, always serving the same economic hierarchy, the same entrenched institution. This is not democracy. It is managerial oligarchy dressed in a democratic costume. The decline of political trust did not happen overnight. It was a gradual corrosion of purpose by ambition, the steady substitution of public service for personal gain. Over decades, parliaments have filled career politicians who treat governance not as a duty, but as a lifelong profession, a ladder to climb, not a calling to fulfill. They speak in the language of the people while living in a world privileged, insulated from the struggles they claim to understand. The age of career politics. The idea of leadership as a career has poisoned modern politics. The founding principles of democracy envision governance as temporary stewardship, citizens serving their nation for a brief period before returning to their ordinary lives. The politician today, however, has become a permanent fixture, clinging to office through manipulation of image, rhetoric, and party machinery. In this system, power becomes addictive. The longer one stays within the halls of governance, the more one learns to navigate and exploit its hidden channels. Lobbyists whisper, donors reward, and media magnifies. Policies are drafted not for the common good but for electoral survival. The pursuit of re-election replaces the pursuit of justice. The result is a government that serves its own continuity, not its people. Career politics breeds mediocrity. The brightest minds often shun political life, unwilling to endure cynicism and corruption. What remains is a class of professionals skilled in persuasion but not in principle, fluent in political theatre but strangers to practical governance. They master slogans, not solutions. They learn how to win elections, not how to heal societies. The illusion of choice. Modern electoral systems perpetuate the comforting illusion that we, the citizens, hold power. Every few years, we are invited to choose between parties, yet these parties, despite their banners of opposition, are often funded by the same corporations, guided by the same economic orthodoxy and trapped within the same ideological cage. The choice is not between genuine alternatives, but between competing brands of the same product. This illusion pacifies the populace. It converts the revolutionary act of self-governance into a periodic ritual of symbolic participation. We tick boxes, cast votes, and return to our lives, believing we have fulfilled our democratic duty, while those in power continue their self-perpetuating cycle of control. Elections, in their current form, no longer serve the purpose of renewal, they serve the purpose of maintenance. They maintain an order where a tiny fraction of humanity controls wealth and resources, while the majority are placated by spectacle. In such a system, even well-meaning leaders become prisoners of inertia. They may wish to enact change but are bound by the invisible chains of party politics, corporate influence, and bureaucratic inertia. The corruption of representation. The very concept of representation has been distorted. Representatives once acted as the voices of the communities, ordinary people temporarily empowered to speak and decide on behalf of their peers. Today, they are intermediaries for power, distant and disconnected, their allegiance divided between their constituents and the donors who fund their campaigns. Lobbying has become institutionalized bribery. Policies are written in the offices of private interests passed into law by ministers who owe their careers to those interests. The people, whose consent supposedly legitimizes government, are left voiceless. In this broken arrangement, the notion that every citizen has equal influence is a myth. Influence is measured not by integrity or wisdom, but by wealth. The wealthiest few shape the fate of nations, the rest merely endure the consequences. Media and manufactured consent. The modern media, once the watchdog of democracy, now often functions as its gatekeeper. Information is filtered, narratives shaped, dissent marginalized. The political class and media elite form a symbiotic circle. Politicians supply the spectacle, media supplies the audience. Together they construct a version of reality that serves stability over truth. Public opinion is not born, it is engineered. Through repetition and emotional manipulation, citizens are guided to think within the narrow boundaries of acceptable discourse. Radical change is portrayed as chaos, conformity is branded as wisdom. Thus, a population capable of self-rule is conditioned to believe it cannot rule itself. The ecological consequence of political decay. While humanity debates party manifestos, the Earth suffers in silence. Climate change, biodiversity collapse, and mass extinction are not merely environmental issues, they are the direct result of political failure. For decades, governments have known the science, the risks, and the remedies, yet have chosen inaction. Why? Because true action threatens the interests that sustain them. The global economy remains wedded to infinite growth on a finite planet, a delusion perpetuated by those in power because it enriches them in the short term. The biosphere is sacrificed at the altar of GDP. Corporate lobbies write environmental policy, ensuring that every green initiative is diluted, delayed, or defeated before it can threaten profits. The Earth does not negotiate. It responds. And when it does, no politician, no matter how powerful, will be immune to its verdict. This is why reforming democracy is not a matter of political preference, it is a matter of survival. The death of public trust. Trust is the invisible foundation upon which all governance rests. When it erodes, institutions collapse from within. Across the democratic world, trust has all but vanished. Citizens no longer believe their governments act in their interests. Cynicism replaces engagement. Voter turnout declines, protest movements rise. The social contract, once binding rulers and ruled in mutual duty, has been broken. This vacuum of faith has birthed two opposing forces, apathy and extremism. Some retreat into despair, convinced that change is impossible. Others are drawn to demagogues who promise easy answers and strong hands. Both outcomes are dangerous, both signal the decay of democracy from within. Why reform alone cannot save the system? Many well-intentioned voices call for reform: campaign finance laws, proportional representation, ethics committees. These measures, though admirable, are cosmetic. They patch cracks in a crumbling wall without addressing the foundation. The disease of modern governance is structural, not procedural. You cannot reform away a system designed to produce inequality and corruption, you must replace it with one that cannot. That is the genesis of the People's Lottery government, a model built not to preserve power but to dissolve it. It rejects the notion that governance must be a profession, or that leadership must belong to a select class. It returns the act of ruling to its rightful owners, the people themselves. In the chapters to come, we will examine how this model functions, how it can be implemented, and why it represents the logical next step in the evolution of democracy. But before we build the new, we must understand why the old cannot endure. The end of the old era. The 20th century taught us that unchecked capitalism breeds inequality. The 21st will teach us that unchecked politics breeds extinction. Humanity's survival now depends on transcending both. The old order is dying. Its institutions still stand, but their foundations are sand. The politicians cling to power like sailors clinging to wreckage, unaware that a new vessel has already been built, one powered not by ambition, but by service. That vessel is the People's Political Party, and its destination is renewal. Chapter 2: The Vision of the People's Political Party. A revolution of governance begins not in the streets, but in the hearts and minds of ordinary people who decide that they will no longer be ruled, they will rule themselves. John Duffy, Founding Charter of the People's Political Party. The People's Political Party, PPP, was born not from ideology, but from necessity. It arose from a growing realization that the old political world, the world of parties, hierarchies, and hereditary power, could no longer meet the demands of a planet in peril. Humanity needed not another political movement to reform the system, but a new system altogether. The PPP is a declaration of independence from corruption, from bureaucracy, and from the illusion that democracy can survive when dominated by elites. Its purpose is not to seize power, but to distribute it, not to govern the people, but to enable them to govern themselves. This chapter lays out the vision and philosophical foundation of the People's Political Party, its core principles, its moral framework, and its call for planetary renewal. 1. The founding principle: power belongs to the people. At the heart of the PPP lies a single unbreakable truth: that power belongs to the people, not to parliaments, not to corporations, not to monarchs, and not to those who claim divine or electoral right, but to the living collective of citizens who make up the nation. Every human being, regardless of wealth, race, or background, has an equal stake in the destiny of Earth. Yet our modern democracies deny this truth. They reduce participation to a vote every few years, allowing professional politicians to rule in the interim. The PPP rejects this model outright. True democracy demands continuous participation, not periodic permission. It demands that governance be a shared civic responsibility, not an inherited privilege. The People's Lottery government transforms this principle into reality, a system where governance rotates among citizens, ensuring that the many, not the few, shape policy and direction. 2. The moral imperative: service, not power. In the People's Political Party, service replaces ambition as the foundation of leadership. Every citizen chosen to serve through the national lottery does so as an act of duty, a sacred trust bestowed by their community and their nation. Their reward is not wealth or celebrity, but the honor of having served the collective. This stands in stark contrast to the current model, where politics has become a career and government a stage for ego. The PPP teaches that leadership is not about authority, but about responsibility, a temporary stewardship of the people's will and the planet's well-being. The party envisions a society where every citizen, at some point in their life, has the opportunity to serve. Governance becomes a rite of passage, a period of civic duty that deepens understanding, compassion, and unity. Thus, politics becomes education through service, not corruption through ambition. 3. The ecological foundation: governance for the Earth. Human civilization is inseparable from the Earth that sustains it. Yet for centuries, politics has treated the natural world as a backdrop, a resource to exploit, a stage upon which human affairs play out. The PPP redefines this relationship. It places the biosphere at the center of governance. Every policy, every law, and every act of the people's government must align with the preservation of life, human, animal, and plant alike. This is the foundation of eco-democracy, the belief that true governance must serve not only the people of today, but the generations and ecosystems of tomorrow. The Earth is not property, it is partnership. The PPP envisions ministries dedicated to ecological restoration, renewable resource management, and species protection, forming the structural heart of its administration. The health of the planet is the measure of national success. In this model, economic growth is no longer measured by profit, but by sustainability. Progress is defined not by accumulation, but by balance. Humanity must move from the age of exploitation into the age of stewardship. 4. The philosophical core: a merit without privilege. Traditional democracy has always struggled to reconcile two competing ideals, equality and competence. The PPP system resolves this paradox through a fusion of random selection, equality, and aptitude testing, competence. Every citizen has an equal chance to be selected, affirming the fundamental democratic principle that all voices matter. Yet only those who demonstrate the necessary understanding, empathy, and reasoning skills will serve, ensuring that governance remains responsible and informed. This approach creates what the PPP calls civic meritocracy, governance that balances fairness with ability. It ends the reign of privilege without surrendering to populism. In the people's government, merit does not mean wealth, education, or influence. It means the ability to serve wisely, justly, and compassionately. 5. The vision of a renewed democracy. Imagine a nation where citizens, not politicians, occupy the seats of power, where teachers, farmers, engineers, artists, and healers gather to deliberate the future of their communities, where government chambers echo not with party slogans, but with authentic voices from every walk of life, where power circulates through society like blood through the body, nourishing, not corrupting. This is the vision of the People's Political Party. Under this model, every 5 years, the cycle of renewal begins anew. No one serves twice. No one builds an empire of influence. Power is loaned, never owned. In this continuous rotation, society remains vibrant, ethical, and free from the stagnation that plagues traditional parliaments. The People's Lottery government transforms politics into a shared civic experience, a living democracy that evolves with its people. It restores to governance the humility, diversity, and wisdom that only the collective can provide. 6. The cultural revolution, from spectators to participants. For centuries, citizens have been trained to view politics as something go Thursday. They are told their only duty is to vote, pay taxes, and obey laws. The PPP shatters this illusion. It declares that citizenship is participation, and participation is power. In the People's Lottery system, every individual lives with the knowledge that they may one day be called to serve. This awareness cultivates civic responsibility in daily life. Education shifts to include ethics, sustainability, and cooperative leadership. Children grow up understanding not only their rights, but their duties to the planet and to each other. In such a culture, apathy dies. The citizen is reborn as a guardian of the common good. 7. The global vision, the Earth as one nation. The PPP's vision transcends borders. While its roots are British, its spirit is planetary. The challenges we face, climate collapse, inequality, war, do not respect national boundaries. The People's Lottery government is a prototype for global democracy, where all nations may one day share common principles of equality, cooperation, and ecological responsibility. The ultimate goal is not domination by one system, but harmony among many, a network of people's governments working together through shared values of sustainability, peace, and justice. This is humanity's next evolutionary step, governance not of nations competing for power, but of peoples cooperating for survival. 8. The ethical covenant. Every citizen who serves under the people's government must swear an ethical covenant, a sacred oath to uphold truth, transparency, and compassion. They must pledge loyalty not to party or ideology, but to the people and to the earth. This covenant binds each participant to higher principles of integrity and empathy. A violation of this covenant, corruption, deception, abuse of power, is not merely a legal infraction, it is a betrayal of the collective trust. The PPP proposes a permanent council of ethical oversight, composed of randomly selected citizens, to monitor and enforce accountability throughout every term. Thus, power polices itself through the conscience of the people. 9. The purpose, a new social contract. The old social contract, where citizens surrender their authority to politicians in exchange for representation, has failed. The PPP introduces a new contract, one of shared responsibility. The people do not relinquish their power, they rotate it. The government does not rule, it serves. This social contract restores faith in the possibility of governance as a noble act. It reminds us that democracy was never meant to be a competition for control, but a collaboration for survival. As philosopher Thomas Paine once wrote, "We have it in our power to begin the world over again." The People's Political Party exists to make that power real. 10. The vision summarized. The PPP's vision can be distilled into 5 guiding principles. 1. Power belongs to the people. Governance is the shared responsibility of all citizens, not a professional class. 2. Service, not ambition, defines leadership. Governance is a temporary act of duty, not a path to wealth or power. 3. The earth is central to policy. The preservation of the biosphere is the foundation of every law and institution. 4. Equality and merit coexist. Random selection ensures fairness, aptitude ensures competence. 5. Global cooperation ensures survival. Humanity must govern as one planetary family to endure and thrive. The dawn of a new political consciousness. The People's Political Party is not a reform of the old order, it is the seed of the new. It does not promise perfection, but evolution. Its goal is not to command the world, but to awaken it. For centuries, humans have built governments to rule over them. The PPP invites them to build governments within them, systems that reflect their highest values and deepest truths. This movement is not the end of democracy. It is its rebirth. Chapter 3: The People's Lottery. Government, a new model for humanity. Part 1: The architecture of a global citizen government. The day will come when the people no longer wait for leaders. They will lead themselves, guided by wisdom, fairness, and the shared duty to protect the earth. John Duffy, Founding Address of the People's Political Party. The turning point. The People's Political Party was never conceived as a protest movement, it was conceived as a blueprint. Its creation of the People's Lottery Government, PLG, represents not simply a political reform, but the birth of a new civic operating system, a structure capable of transcending borders, ideologies, and centuries of inherited corruption. Where previous revolutions sought to seize power, the PLG seeks to dissolve it into the people themselves. The model begins in Britain, the first nation to formalize parliamentary democracy, and expands outward to form the foundation of a global civic renaissance. From representation to rotation. The heart of the model lies in a single evolutionary leap, replacing representation with rotation. Traditional governments elect a permanent political class. The PLG introduces a citizen rotation system, in which government seats are filled not by campaigning elites but by ordinary citizens chosen through a transparent national lottery and refined through aptitude evaluation. This evolution mirrors nature itself, renewal through cycles. Every 5 years, power returns to the people, refreshed and redistributed, ensuring that governance remains dynamic and free from stagnation. Step 1: The National Lottery Selection. Every 5th year, on the first Thursday after May 1st, a national event takes place, the People's Lottery of Governance. In the United Kingdom example, the lottery is administered by an independent constitutional commission, supervised publicly and broadcast live to guarantee transparency. 1. Eligibility: all citizens aged 25 and above, with no serious criminal convictions and who have resided in the country for at least 5 consecutive years, are automatically entered. 2. Random draw from the national population: 100 citizens are selected from each parliamentary constituency, totaling 70,000 initial candidates. 3. Notification and consent: those selected receive an official invitation to participate. Participation is voluntary but strongly encouraged as an act of civic duty. Refusal carries no penalty, yet social pride is attached to service, much like jury duty elevated to a national honor. This first stage embodies equality. Birth, wealth, or fame grant no advantage. The farmer, the nurse, the engineer, and the artist stand side by side as potential lawmakers. Step 2: The Aptitude Assessment. Randomness alone cannot ensure competence, therefore, the second stage introduces the Aptitude and Civic Capability Assessment, a rigorous, transparent examination designed not to favor academic elites but to identify balanced intelligence, ethical reasoning, and emotional maturity. The testing process unfolds over several weeks and includes critical reasoning modules evaluating logic, comprehension, and systems thinking, ethical judgment simulations presenting moral dilemmas in governance, human rights and ecological policy, collaborative problem solving, small group tasks measuring cooperation and empathy, civic literacy and environmental awareness ensuring candidates understand constitutional principles, sustainability, and global responsibility. The examinations are blind graded using digital anonymity systems to remove all bias regarding gender, race, or region. At the conclusion, 700 individuals, one for each constituency, emerge as the most capable, balanced, and ethically aware citizens of their cohort. Step 3. Formation of the People's Parliament. These 700 citizens form the legislative core of the People's Parliament, the governing body for the next 5 years. Before assuming office, each undergoes 3 months of civic training provided by national universities and ethical institutes. The curriculum focuses on constitutional law, environmental science, social equity, and deliberative dialogue. They are not indoctrinated with party ideology, because no parties exist within the PLG structure. Instead, they are trained to reason, to deliberate, and to act collaboratively in the public interest. Their employers are legally obligated to hold their previous jobs for the duration of service, with full compensation provided by the state. Governance thus becomes a temporary act of stewardship, not a career path. Each member swears an oath of civic service, pledging to act with transparency, humility, and ecological awareness. Violations of this oath, corruption, discrimination, dereliction, lead to automatic dismissal through the Council of Ethical Oversight, itself composed of rotating citizens selected annually by lottery. Step 4. The presidential election of competence. While legislative seats are filled through aptitude selection, the executive leadership, the president of the people's government, is chosen through national public vote from among the top 6 scorers of the aptitude assessments, along with the outgoing president if they choose to stand again. This creates a unique balance. The people retain ultimate sovereignty through direct choice of president. The aptitude process ensures that every presidential candidate possesses demonstrable capability and ethical grounding. The president serves as head of state and chief coordinator, guiding but not dominating the parliament. Their tenure lasts 5 years, renewable only once. Step 5. Governance in practice. Once inaugurated, the people's government divides its responsibilities into 12 councils of stewardship, replacing traditional ministries. Each council focuses on a vital sphere of human and planetary welfare. 1. Environment and biosphere restoration. 2. Energy and sustainability. 3. Education and civic development. 4. Health and well-being. 5. Culture and community. 6. Science and innovation. 7. Justice and human rights. 8. Infrastructure and transport. 9. Agriculture and food security. 10. Economics and resource management. 11. Foreign relations and global cooperation. 12. Peace and conflict resolution. Each council is co-chaired by both a subject matter specialist, appointed by merit from national institutes, and a citizen legislator, chosen from the parliament. This partnership merges technical expertise with public conscience. Decisions within councils are made through consensus-driven deliberation rather than party voting blocks. Artificial intelligence and transparent data systems assist in modeling outcomes and publishing every proposal for citizen review, ensuring that governance remains both rational and participatory. Step 6. Transparency as a living system. The PLG's legitimacy depends on total transparency. Every session of Parliament, every vote, every expenditure is publicly visible in real time through open-source digital platforms. Citizens may comment, propose, or challenge policy drafts via verified national portals, creating a continuous dialogue between those in office and those at home. Confidentiality exists only for matters of personal privacy and national security, and even these are audited post-term by the Independent Council of Record Integrity. Transparency becomes not an accessory of democracy, but its bloodstream. Step 7. The 5-year cycle and peaceful dissolution. At the end of each 5-year term, the entire structure dissolves automatically. No extension, no lifetime seats, no clinging to power. The president may seek re-election once, all others return to civilian life with full employment reinstatement. This dissolution is celebrated nationally as the Festival of Return, a civic holiday marking the peaceful transfer of responsibility back to the population. New citizens then prepare for the next lottery, beginning the cycle of renewal again. Through this mechanism, power ceases to fossilize. Society renews itself through constant circulation of civic energy. Why the United Kingdom first? The United Kingdom holds symbolic weight in global political history. It was the cradle of parliamentary governance and constitutional monarchy. Implementing the people's lottery government there carries both practicality and poetic justice. Britain's existing administrative regions, its 700 constituencies, provide the perfect framework for the initial draw. Its centuries-old democratic institutions, civil service, judiciary, and constitutional traditions offer the infrastructure upon which this model can stand. The first national pilot would demonstrate to the world that even the oldest democracies can evolve, proving that renewal is possible without revolution in the streets. From this beginning, the model can then adapt to different scales, city-states, federations, and ultimately a planetary network of interconnected people's governments bound by shared ethical standards. Chapter 3: The People's Lottery. Government, a New Model for Humanity. Part 2: From National Experiment to Global Civic Renaissance. If humanity can cooperate to destroy the Earth, then it can also cooperate to heal her. John Duffy, Address to the Founding Congress of the People's Political Party. The birth of a new civic ecology. The People's Lottery Government, PLG, does not end with the creation of a fairer national government, it begins there. Its greater purpose is to seed a new global civic ecology, a living network of nations governed by their citizens, united in the duty of planetary stewardship. Where past empires sought conquest and profit, this model seeks balance and sustainability. It views Earth not as territory but as trust, inherited from our ancestors and borrowed from our descendants. When the United Kingdom becomes the first to adopt the system, it does not stand apart as an exceptional nation, it becomes an example nation. Its success will serve as proof that the citizens of any land can govern themselves with wisdom and fairness when freed from the chains of career politics. A framework for global adaptation. Every country possesses unique legal structures, cultures, and population sizes. To make the PLG globally adaptable, its framework must be modular, anchored by shared principles but flexible in form. 1. The constitutional integration layer. Each nation begins by amending or codifying its constitution to anesthetize and rotation as a constitutional right and duty, the amendment specifies. The frequency of lottery cycles, the independent commission overseeing randomization, term limits, and the inviolability of citizen employment and civil rights during service. This ensures the new system emerges within constitutional order, avoiding anarchy while achieving transformation. 2. The population calibration layer. Smaller nations may select fewer participants, larger federations more. The proportional formula, approximately one legislator per 100,000 citizens, ensures representation remains intimate and manageable. 3. The cultural layer. The PLG respects local tradition, indigenous consultative models, village councils, and tribal assemblies can integrate seamlessly into its architecture, preserving cultural wisdom while ensuring equitable rotation. Thus, democracy becomes culturally plural but ethically universal. Training the world's citizen leaders. No government can function if its participants are unprepared. To this end, the PPP proposes a global civic education network, GCEN, an open, multilingual platform coordinated by universities and NGOs dedicated to teaching ethics, governance, and ecological literacy. Courses include Systems Thinking and Sustainable Economics, Peace and Diplomacy, Restorative Justice and Cultural Empathy, Climate Science and Planetary Limits, Technology, AI, and Data Transparency. Graduates of GCEN are not professional politicians, they are recitized and scholarship to serve with humility and skill. The network's material is freely accessible worldwide, allowing any future lottery participant, whether in Ghana, Brazil, or Japan, to study the same foundational principles that guide the British pilot. Checks, balances, and civic accountability. The People's Lottery Government maintains accountability not through party opposition but through continuous civic oversight. 3. Institutions guarantee integrity. 1. The Council of Ethical Oversight, randomly selected each year from the general population, this council investigates misconduct, manages whistleblower protections, and enforces ethical standards. Its decisions are binding and transparent. Point 2. The Civic Audit Office, an independent body of economists, ecologists, and data scientists that audits all financial and environmental accounts of the government in real time. 3. The People's Tribunal, a jury of citizens convened quarterly to review policy complaints submitted by the public. Its findings compel parliamentary response within 30 days. Through these mechanisms, every act of governance remains visible, reviewable, and reversible by people themselves. Technology as the tool of transparency. The 21st century offers instruments the founders of democracy could never have imagined. Blockchain verification prevents tampering with votes or budgets. Artificial intelligence models analyze environmental impact before bills pass. Online civic portals allow citizens to observe deliberations, propose amendments, and participate in referenda from any corner of the world. Technology, long exploited for manipulation and surveillance, becomes a force for collective enlightenment. The PLG envisions an open-source state, a digital commons where information is free, policy is collaborative, and truth is publicly auditable. Economy reimagined, the resource-based partnership. The People's Lottery government functions most effectively when coupled with a resource-based economy, RBE. Instead of measuring success through profit, the RBE measures it through ecological stability and human well-being. Resources, water, energy, minerals, are catalogued, managed, and distributed using transparent data rather than market speculation. Corporations do not vanish, but transform into cooperative stewardships licensed to operate only within ecological limits. Profit becomes conditional upon restoration. Innovation is rewarded by sustainability, not exploitation. When governments serve without financial motive, economic life follows their example. Greed is displaced by guardianship. Diplomacy of the planetary age. Traditional diplomacy thrives on secrecy, alliance, and threat. Under the PLG, diplomacy evolves into planetary cooperation, a transparent dialogue among citizen governments. The United Kingdom, as the first PLG nation, would host the World Council of Citizen Governments, WCCG, a rotating summit where representatives from each people's government share environmental data, conflict resolution strategies, and humanitarian initiatives. The Council's charter would prioritize universal climate agreements enforceable through mutual audit, a global peace fund replacing military subsidies with ecological restoration projects, exchange programs for citizen legislators to learn across cultures. In this system, international relations cease to be a chessboard and become a classroom. The environmental mandate. Every decision under the PLG must pass the biospheric impact test, a mandatory evaluation of ecological consequence. If a proposed policy endangers biodiversity, accelerates carbon output, or threatens resource equilibrium, it cannot become law without compensatory restoration plans. This transforms environmental ethics from optional policy to constitutional commandment. Governance itself becomes a branch of ecology. The human dividend. Beyond politics and environment lies the deeper reward, the rebirth of civic purpose. As citizens serve, they return to their communities with broadened vision. Former parliamentarians, teachers, builders, doctors, carry the lessons of governance into daily life. They become civic mentors, spreading knowledge and empathy at the local level. In time, the entire culture changes. Children grow up watching ordinary citizens, not dynastic politicians, lead their nations. They see governance as achievable, duty as honorable, and cooperation as normal. This is the invisible dividend of the People's Lottery government, the moral education of a species. Challenges and transition. No revolution is free from friction. The transition to a PLG requires phased reform. 1. Establish pilot assemblies alongside existing parliaments. 2. Introduce lottery selection for secondary advisory chambers. 3. Gradually expand authority as public confidence grows. Critics will fear instability, elites will fear loss of privilege, yet history reminds us that every enduring reform, from the abolition of slavery to universal suffrage, was once dismissed as impossible. The PPP does not propose chaos, it proposes evolution guided by discipline. The global vision, humanity as a shared civilization. When multiple nations adopt the model, the Earth begins to function as a federation of peoples, not of corporations or empires. Borders remain, but hostility fades, trade becomes resource exchange under global ecological accounting, armies shrink into emergency corps for disaster relief and environmental repair. The purpose of civilization shifts from competition to continuity. Humanity, at last, acts as caretaker of its only home. Britain as the beacon. The United Kingdom's pilot implementation becomes the world's demonstration of possibility. Its parliament, once a monument to hierarchy, transforms into a living laboratory of participation. Visitors from every continent observe how random citizens deliberate, legislate, and protect their nation with dignity. They return home inspired to plant the same seeds. Just as Magna Carta once ignited the idea of rights, the People's Lottery government ignites the idea of shared governance for a planetary age. The moral horizon. The People's Lottery government is not merely political architecture, it is a moral horizon toward which humanity must sail. It recognizes that wisdom does not dwell solely in scholars or statesmen but in the collective intelligence of humankind. It teaches that freedom and responsibility are one and the same. When the farmer and the scientist, the nurse and the engineer, the poet and the soldier sit together to decide the fate of their world, democracy will have reached its truest form. The promise. The promise of the PLG is simple yet profound: that governance can be fair, transparent, competent, and compassionate all at once, that power can circulate without corruption, that nations can act as organs of a living planet, not parasites upon it. The United Kingdom will light the first flame, the world will carry the torch. And one day, the phrase "government of the peoples" will no longer be aspiration, it will be description. End of preview. Revolutionizing Governance, a Blueprint for Ethical Democracy in the Age of Planetary Stewardship by John Duffy.